Hello, everyone, and welcome back to DWG TV. I'm Hannah, and today I'm joined by Brittany Berger, who is a Minimalist Content Marketing Consultant, which is pretty much the coolest title I've ever heard. And we're really excited to have her today. I was first introduced to her, I first saw her at Inbound in 2018. I attended her session and was just super inspired by it. Our whole team was. And so we're really excited about a year later to have her on DWG TV and to be sharing her insights, not only on content marketing, but also on productivity, self-care, and what that looks like to have that be personal to you and how not all productivity hacks work for every person. So we're really excited to have you, Brittany. If you want to take a second and just introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, all that good stuff.
Sure. So thanks so much for having me. I still think that my Inbound talk is one of my favorite pieces of content I've ever created. So awesome. I'm people like it. And yeah, I am a content marketing consultant and teacher that teaches you how to reach your existing marketing and business goals with less content. And that sometimes means repurposing, sometimes means optimizing, sometimes just means more strategic. I just really noticed that in my years as an in-house content marketer, we were all creating too much content that wasn't just strategic enough. And it's what I aim to help people with now. And then outside of my personal brand, I also run the Work Brighter community as kind of a refuge for people who want to escape hustle culture to a more balanced view of work and productivity.
Awesome. So what inspired you to launch BrittanyBerger.com and also the Work Brighter community?
I feel like they're both really inspired by where I was at personally in 2017, which was the year that I left full-time work and full-time on focusing on this stuff. And it's just where I was then, the problems I was having in both areas of my life. So at the time at my day job, I was the in-house head of content for a company, and it was a pretty big company that had been doing content marketing since the start. And so we had a lot of stuff sitting in our archives that wasn't necessarily working for us. Sometimes it was like actively hurting us, like bringing in bad fit leads or just, you know, we had 2 articles about something. One was current, one wasn't. And the one that and just so many problems came from how much content that we had created and not maintained over time. And I was also dealing with a lot of health and burnout issues at the time. And so I was not working as much and had to, in addition to that, get really creative about how to meet all the content marketing goals and do my job. And so the approach that I came up with is what I call minimalist content marketing now. And it's what the whole personal brand's focused on, either teaching people through courses and workshops and tools. I've got a lot of different products that are all priced so that they can either be for someone starting their own business or a marketer at a smaller company trying to get things together. And then for the larger companies, I also have one-on-one consulting. And then on the Work Brighter side of things, I talk about kind of all the mindset shifts I made around then during that health stuff that I mentioned earlier. So at the time, I had just been diagnosed with several chronic illnesses. I was very, very much a workaholic and very bought into what I like to call hustle culture and just like an obsession with productivity. I so obsessed with productivity. At the time, I had a newsletter that I called Work Smarter. I was writing about productivity. But then when I started working on my health and starting to try to come back from burnout, I realized that was actually working against me in a lot of cases. And I just feel like my whole world was changed around what I thought about work and mental health and self-care, and that I had followed a lot of advice that was not made for me. And that a lot of the productivity advice is for a very specific type of person that we don't necessarily specify. And anyone who is dealing with a lot of physical or mental health issues or disabilities, which is I think probably about 1 in 3, 1 in 4 people last time I looked up the stats. So this huge chunk of the workforce who is like actively hurting themselves with all of these popular productivity hacks and stuff like that. And I realized that getting rid of all of that mindset really helped me, and I wanted to share it with others.
I think you have such an inspiring story. And I know that your session and your presentation at Inbound just completely shifted my mindset, not only on content marketing, being a marketer myself, but also just, I know I went back to my hotel that night and like looked up all of your stuff, looked up your website, all that good stuff. And I was just so inspired, and I hadn't heard anyone talk about productivity in the way that you do. And that was just really cool, being very type A myself, very driven and goal oriented. Those are all great things, but they're not good when they're causing you burnout. And so I was just so inspired by not only what you said when it comes to marketing, but also what you said when it comes to self-care and finding what works with you. And I think that's what's cool too about your two brands, with you having Brittany Berger and also the Work Brighter community. They kind of have the same mission, just about different things. It's just working brighter and figuring out how to do more with less. So that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I say that Brittany Berger is essentially just like a very much more niche down and specific marketing of the stuff I talk about in Work Brighter.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit more about minimalist content marketing and kind of how you define that?
Sure. So like I said, at the time when I was at my day job, we had a lot of content. When I joined the team, they had been blogging twice a week for years. We bumped it up to 4 times a week while I was there, before in my last year seeing like, oh no, what have we gotten ourselves into here? Mm-hmm. Excuse me. What have we gotten ourselves into, and started pulling back. And kind of the things that I lived by and what I call the 3 rules of minimalist content marketing now are, it's about getting the best results possible and not creating as much content as possible. Right. I remember when I joined that company, our goal, like one of our marketing goals, was to publish daily. That was something that we wanted. But then I slowly came to realize, as we amped up to 3 times a week, 4 times a week, what it was taking to do that, and that it was actually pulling us away from all of these other marketing goals that made way more sense.
Right.
And that, a lot of times creating new content wasn't the answer, because we had so much. A lot of the times we had what we needed, we just needed to improve it. And so that's when I began like updating and repurposing a lot. And then the second rule was about creating just as much content as you need, and then switching your priority and your strategy to focus on using it. Like I said, right, to a point where we had like a lot of like topics that we covered before, and like how many times can you write about the same topic in different ways? How many times is it even like serving your customers to do that, as opposed to just like putting the same information in front of them in a new way?
Right.
So that's where I really bring like where the minimalist content marketing comes from, because I don't necessarily identify with like the capital M minimalist movement and like the minimalists. The one thing that I really do love from that movement is the concept of defining enough and not having more than that. And that is really an important thing to do for your content.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's such a cool approach. And it seems so simple that I'm like, why are more people not talking about this? And how had I not heard about it until last year? And it just was like a huge light bulb moment for me. So I think it's really cool what you're doing. And it just makes so much sense. And it's making the lives of a lot of marketers easier and more effective in their businesses. So,
and that's what we need, because a lot of us, so many of us are type A. We are workaholics, and we put in the work, and we deserve for things to be easier.
Yeah, it's so true. So in your experience working as a consultant with other businesses and organizations, individuals, what have you seen is a common mistake that businesses are making when it comes to content marketing?
It is really just, it all boils down in one way or another to creating too much content and not using it. Like what that looks like is different for every company. Like sometimes they're just focusing on distributing their content to all the wrong places. I worked with one company that was creating a ton of really, really amazing product-focused content, but then only promoting it on social media. And I was like, the people that this content is most useful for, and these specific kind of posts, is your existing customers. Why aren't you showing this to them? It's amazing, and it could help so much. And the people on your Twitter followers, they're not going to be as interested in in-depth product tutorials yet.
Right.
And so just really using content in the wrong way, and creating too much of it. I do think a lot of it also is like, I talk to a lot of companies who they want to be the next, insert their favorite, very large, very much more mature than them company. Like, want to be the next HubSpot blog or the next Trello blog, and other really big companies with just like totally different marketing goals and teams and resources or whatever. And so they really start losing focus on what matters to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's so crucial, is kind of stop looking elsewhere and looking at what it's important, obviously, to see what your competitors are doing, but just to recognize, okay, HubSpot, Trello, those are some big companies. Who are we as a company, and how can we make our content the best it can be? Not how can we make our content be what HubSpot's is. So
yeah. And I feel like this is a popular, again, like productivity or personal development, self-care quote, but it's kind of cliche, but like, don't compare your beginning to someone else's middle. Don't compare your content marketing to HubSpot.
Yeah.
That's such a recipe for imposter syndrome and feeling like you're not doing enough.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I think that's really important to remember. So what's just one thing that people watching today, what's one thing that they can start doing to improve their content marketing? What's just like one small improvement that they can make?
Go make a list of any posts that are in your like bucket of highest trafficked content, but lowest converting content. And I use converting loosely, whatever a conversion means for your content strategy, but like, find any post that's getting traffic, but not doing its job. And then create spots on next month's or next whatever's editorial calendar to, instead of creating a new blog post in that slot, updating the old one.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's something that we took from inbound from your session, and we've totally been applying that to our own content strategy and also our partners. So
Isn't
it's
it
definitely,
great?
yeah, it's great.
So much easier.
Yes, it does. So I want to shift a little bit and talk about the work brighter side of things and productivity, self-care, that kind of stuff. So can you share a little bit about what it means to you to work brighter?
Sure. So like I said before, I used to be really caught up in what I call hustle culture and relentless productivity and just being obsessed with getting as much done as possible, because I was all type A and ambitious and all of that stuff. And all of, like the mantra for that whole community and movement is work smarter, not harder.
Right.
And so through all of the stuff with my mindset and health and self-care, I realized like, oh, working smarter wasn't enough. I followed all of the productivity rules and still burnt out. And so I like to think also, those are all very strict rules, very black and white. I am a more technicolor person. So I like to think of like working smarter as the beginning of the Wizard of Oz, and working brighter as once they're in Technicolor, and it's just going to a brighter, more fuller version of doing the work and sustainable productivity.
Yeah, I love that. Like I said, I am like super type A, and that was such an enlightening thing for me to hear, is that productivity is personal, and there's so many blogs and YouTube channels and books out there that are telling you this is the right way to live your life. This is how you can be the most efficient. And this is how you can just, be the best, do the best, do all the things. And really it's not sustainable and it's not personal. So I think that's really, really awesome. What is in your kind of journey figuring this out? What's a popular productivity hack that you found just doesn't work for you?
Batching calls. I have an entire video on the Work Brighter YouTube channel about this, about how many times I burnt out back when I was batching my phone calls. So when I was going through health stuff, but still working full time at my day job, I worked semi-remotely. So I'd only go into the office once or twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be for like team-wide meetings. And so I figured I would just make those my meeting days and batch everything on those days, like the very popular productivity advice that like on paper, it totally makes sense.
Yeah.
But then you take into the fact that I'm an introvert. I just don't like talking to people for hours and hours.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, that I was trying to write really in-depth content immediately following that. And number three, with all of the health stuff that I was going through at the time, working for several hours without a break was just, it would wipe me out. I remember going home to write one day and just falling asleep on the couch with my laptop on my lap. And I was like, well, this is pathetic. But I was just like, I was one seat over from where I'm sitting now, and there's like an armrest. And I was just like,
yeah.
my boyfriend gave up about me like that. So yeah, batching calls totally makes sense. And if calls aren't super draining for you, totally do it. Me, it was horrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can relate to that. Batching works for some things, but I'm an introvert as well. And, I even like these kind of interviews, I've got to space it out because it takes it out of you to be on all the time. So, what have you learned about balancing productivity with self-care? How have you kind of learned how to, have those coexist in your life?
They are both work to me. One thing I said a lot when I was trying to get myself to focus on self-care when it didn't come naturally, and I had also just switched from my business being my side hustle to my full-time job, was I said, okay, well now self-care is my side hustle. And I treated it like one. I put stuff in my to-do list and my calendar about it, and that I still use and check off every day about drinking water, taking my meds by the right time of day.
Mm-hmm.
All of that. I took it and I basically put it through all the Work Smarter systems, like I batch self-care tasks, and not like pampering type, but just daily personal maintenance. Like I'm a huge fan of journaling and like just having thinking time. And, I just have an hour blocked in my mornings for my morning routine. And that's when like any self-care I'm going to do that day happens in that hour. So like that is a batching that works for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's important to note too, when we're talking about self-care, is I feel like our culture has kind of made it out to be face masks and bubble baths and doing our nails. And it's so much more than that. And it's not even that sometimes for each person. So
yeah, don't get me started on that. I could rant about that forever, but self-care is very related to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And like, unless everything in your life is already together, there's probably something that you can do to take care of yourself more than getting a pedicure.
Totally.
Although, I have been really wanting a pedicure lately, but when I go get one, and I won't be like self-care, I'll be like pedicure.
Yeah, exactly. So are there any specific tools that you would recommend to people to help with their content marketing, to help with productivity or automation, just any tools or resources that you found work for you that you want to share?
I love talking tools. I am very much a techie, so these might not be great for people who have trouble adapting to new tools, because these are all very flexible ones.
Okay.
But I love Airtable, Notion, and Zapier. So Airtable and Notion are both pretty similar. They're both kind of like new takes on Google Drive stuff. So Airtable is kind of like a spreadsheet alternative. And I've always had a lot of trouble just like formatting spreadsheets, getting the formulas I wanted and stuff like that. And so I hated using them for content stuff. And so I use Airtable for so much of that. And I use it for lots of self-care, like tracking my health, tracking like my habits and stuff like that. I love it so much. And then Notion is kind of like that same concept, but more for docs. And so like Google Docs instead of spreadsheets.
Okay.
Awesome. And Zapier, I like to say that it makes all of your other tools talk to each other. So it's a great way to just integrate tools that don't easily integrate in your marketing stack, your whatever. Super fun.
Cool. Those are awesome tips. We'll make sure to plug those into the description too, so people can check those out. So next, I like to ask everyone we bring on to DWG TV, we like to ask them some rapid fire questions just for fun to get to know you better. So I've just got a couple here. Who would play you in a movie about your life?
I can't decide between Rachel Bloom or Kristen Bell.
Oh, I love it. Just a mashup of both of them.
Yes.
What is your favorite way to practice self-care?
I like to call it mindful television. A lot of people just like assume that television is like something that you do passively and just wasting time, but watching something that you know is going to make you feel better afterwards.
Yeah.
Doing it mindfully, that's still my favorite way to unwind.
Yeah, I love that. I try to do that too and be intentional about picking a series or like even a movie or just anything I'm watching. Because I feel like sometimes people are like, oh, you should be reading instead of watching TV. Watching TV is bad for you, but I really enjoy it. And if it's intentional, go for it.
I have a really long tweet thread about that. But like every type of entertainment or content has both good and bad. And
totally.
People have to judge TV by the bad and like books by the good.
Exactly. Well, speaking of books, what are you currently reading or listening to?
So I just bought a book about the con artist Anna Delvey.
Okay.
So excited to read it. I haven't started it yet, but I'm super into that kind of stuff.
Cool. That's awesome. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Night owl all the way. That's another big productivity hack I let go of, was trying to be an early bird.
Yeah. I've tried so hard to be a morning person. I'm still trying to, but I got to be honest with myself. But I tell people I'm not a morning person or a night owl. I'm just like a midday person.
I call that afternoon panda.
That's what I am.
You deserve an animal too.
Yeah, this is my like good time right now. And my last question is, who inspires you?
Amy Poehler and Tina Fey. I really love the way that they've both evolved their careers beyond acting and to support other creatives too. And that's something that as I grow Work Brighter, I really look at both of their production companies.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I've never even thought about them in that way, but that's really awesome. So that's all the questions I have. Can you just share where people can go to learn more about BrittanyBerger.com? Well, I guess I'll go to BrittanyBerger.com, but just to learn more about you and Work Brighter, if you want to like plug your social media, where can people go to follow along with everything that you're doing?
Sure. So like you said, BrittanyBerger.com. The Work Brighter website is workbrighter.co. And then on Twitter, it's where I hang out the most, and I am that Bberg on there. And then over on Instagram, I'm Work Brighter.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been really fun. I'm so glad that we got some of your time and that we can share your mission and insights with our audience here on Facebook and beyond. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, y'all. Well, I hope you enjoyed this chat today with Brittany and that you can go check out more of what she does over on BrittanyBerger.com and also on workbrighter.co. Hope you got something out of this chat. I know I did. So please just like and share this video if you got something out of it, and also follow along with us on social media. We're on all the platforms: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. Give us a follow there so you can find out when we're going live next. So until next time, have a great day, y'all. Bye.